untreated trauma causes people to react or to reproduce or reenact that trauma on other people, or pain on other people. Can you say a little more about that, please?
Yes, sir. First, let me thank you for having me on. Trauma, it has different veins where one question could trigger a slew of events that maybe the host didn't even know that they were holding on to trauma. Because as a child, they may have experienced their father or brother or maybe their mother got incarcerated, and they were sitting in the floor playing with the toys as an innocent child, and the door gets kicked in with the police badges and flashlights, and that individual, the mother, father, or brother was taken away from the home. But there's no explanation to the child as to what happened. All they know is my brother's gone, my father's gone, and my mother is gone. And they have to grow up with that. And then maybe without the explanation, they have a great disdain for maybe law enforcement based on that traumatic experience. So the traumatic experience makes them act out at all law enforcement. And then now they find themselves joining that loved one that they lost because there was no explanation. There was no simple question, what's on your mind? That's a powerful question, what's on your mind? A lot of youth will say nothing because they don't know you. You can be a parent in the house, but just not be a parent to them. And they may not trust mother or father to answer that question wholeheartedly. So when we have to be able to engage our youth, our young people, give them a platform on which they can express themselves, again, effectively verbally, without acting out, and now it's whatever state versus your child or your little brother or your little sister.
Do you think
trauma in and of itself? I'm sorry?
Do you think is what's on your mind a good way to access that? Is that a key way of accessing it? Okay.
Yes, sir. Because that's not an investigative question. You really want to know what's on your mind. We've gotten away from how was school today? What did you do today? Parents don't do that, so children feel like no one cares. And the main thing is no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So when you ask them, what did y'all do in school today? Your child may say, well, this boy knocked me down in the locker or knocked my books down. You're like, why? Then you get them more comfortable trying to figure out why. You get them more comfortable. You pay attention to the pantomimes, their facial expressions as they explain themselves. And then now you get them open and more say, oh, maybe my brother or my father or mother do have a genuine concern for me. I can't answer this question without being judged, without being ridiculed. I remember being young and my mother told me, if somebody hits you, you hit them back. If they're bigger than you, you pick up something to hit them upside their head. That's all she told me. My father died when I was 8. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. We're all 2 years apart. So my mother was trying to be a mother, a masculine mother, which is a hard thing to do. She's trying to be a masculine mother and raise all boys. And so with no proper explanation, you take that instruction from your mother as the gospel. So if somebody hits you, you hit them back. If they're bigger than you, pick up something, hit them upside the head. Right and wrong is not attached to it. Why? Because mama told me that. I passed it on to my son, my oldest son. When I tried to pass that on, my son got in trouble because I gave it just how my mother gave it to me. Only this time it was a girl that pushed him off his bike, scratched his leg. My mother says, that's a little girl. You don't hit no little girl. I said, Ma, you didn't tell me that when I was his age. You told me something different. You just said anybody. And my son ended up getting a whooping for that. And that kind of created a gap between he and I because he looked at me as this savior, like, my daddy won't let me get whooped. I couldn't explain to him, but granny is the law. But conversation in and of itself, we have to give our youth, our young people, the advantage to know that they can understand our conversations if we just talk to them. And I think that's what's lacking. It's just deliberative dialogue.
Yeah.
Talk to your children. Talk to your little brothers. Talk to your nieces and nephews. Talk to the young people in your neighborhood. Just to find out what's going on in their mind. What y'all do today? How you feeling today? What's on your mind today? And then just sit back and listen.
Thank you, thank you. It's so unfortunate that might be the first opportunity someone gets to hear that from an adult.
Yes, sir.
Is in front of you in there. But I take a lot of comfort in knowing that you've thought as deeply about this and been as insightful in your own research,
Yes,
or intense in your own research through your personal experience, that you would actually be ready and adept to share that wisdom with people at the time that they need it the most. Going forward, so are there any other patterns that you recognize that we might not have talked about that you see in young men that make it difficult for them to talk, or can you speak to certain behaviors that we may do as parents that either traumatize our children or make them feel that they can't come to us and, tell us anything, tell us what's on their mind before they do something?
Trust.
Okay.
There's an extreme lack of trust, and so our young people, and I'm gauging this now from the young people that I see coming to prison now. They come in cross-addicted to any drug and or alcohol they can get their hands on because that traumatic life, it screams at them so loud that when they're under the influence of something, it silences the trauma. So when they're sober, trauma screams. When they're high or drunk or both, there's a mute button on trauma, but it doesn't go anywhere. They don't know how to deal with it.
So they're narcotizing themselves to keep from processing it, or just to survive.
Yes, sir.
What's not been
Yes,
processed. Sir. Okay.
That drug is their coping mechanism. That's their counselor. That's their best friend. That's their confidant. That's the shoulder that they lean on. The ecstasy, the oxy, the blunts, the drinks, the Xanny juice, the Xanny bars, the cocaine, the weed, all of that is what they use to make you through life, not just the day, but life. And it's sad because seeing them now, when they're sobered up, they get to meet themselves for the first time, which is when we get them. Because we also was doing a youth deterrent program where we had at-risk youth coming into the prison the last Friday of every month from age 8 to 18. And we found out that a lot of the youngers, 12 and 11 years old, they were also cross-addicted, and they seen their fair share of trauma. Mamas being abused by boyfriends and fathers, siblings killed, best friends shot. So we would ask them, and we only had like a span of 6 hours to meet with them. How did that make you feel to see your mother get beat up? By us being a stranger, sometimes they can open up better because they feel like, man, I'll never see him again. We would encourage them, whatever's holding you down, leave it here with us. This is the waste basket. Leave it here with us that you can leave out a better individual. Once we give them that permission to relieve themselves of that trauma, then you see the little 11-year-old come back. You see the light back in their eyes where there was once darkness and despair. They don't want to leave. Can I write you? Can I come back and see you? Sadly, it's only a one shot. But you can see the life go back in their eyes, the innocence go back in their eyes.
It almost brings tears up to think about. And it's such a brighter approach than telling people how hard life is going to be when they get to prison. Actually taking an interest in them and allowing them to be heard.
Right. Absolutely.
When did you come to feel heard? Or Yeah, when did you come to think that people heard you?
When did I do who?
When did you come to feel heard enough to recognize the value in it so that you give other people that space? You recognize their need for it.
I believe when my oldest son Derek was murdered, because I had to find a way. At the same time he was murdered, I was chosen by my unit counselor and the deputy of security to come up with a program, because there was a class of young guys on the compound who only had like 1 to 15s and 2 to 15s, but they had so many misconduct.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Prolonging their stay. And while I was in the midst of putting that program together, my son was murdered. So I had 25 young guys looking at me, and I didn't want to leave them, so I would just put my son on the back burner and my own grief, constantly deal with them. And I found a way.
So I reckon I see that we're about to run out of time, and I don't want to get you at a better part of the answer. Can we start off our next conversation exploring this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when is a good time or day for you?
Whenever you need me to.
Whenever you can. We can do it in 15 minutes. We can do it in the morning. Whatever works for you. I do like being on a roll and getting as much as I can. Also, I know you got a life too.
I'll try to call back in 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for using GTL.